Hello. Welcome to another episode. What episode is today? No, hello everyone. Welcome to Xbox International. Unfortunately, our brother, our friend, is not here tonight for some very sad news. Hope he's doing well. But, you know, we're gonna continue on for today. Have an episode. I hope he's doing well, and we got some gaming topics to go over. But before we do that, let's go on and see how the rest of the team is doing. So, Silent Cypher, our captain, how you doing today, and what have you been playing?
Well, good evening, sir. I'm doing good. We're on a short work week, so I'm super looking forward to having a few days this weekend to hopefully catch up, play some video games, do some stuff. Got a dishwasher I get to install this weekend too, so I get to do a little of the home simulator as well again this weekend. But besides that, man, I've been playing some Brotato again. God, what else have I been playing? I feel like I jumped into a few things, but more than anything, I've actually watched some movies over the last couple of days. I don't know if either of you guys have seen it. Maybe some folks in chat have, but it was recommended to me that I watch the movie X. It's just called X, is what
Is
it is.
that the one with Vin Diesel?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. This one's about family to an extent also, but no. So it's a horror movie, and it's made by A24, so it's got kind of that like funky, creepy indie vibe to it. That one was really good. That caught me off guard. There was a lot to it that I did not expect, and then after I finished, I was like, "Oh, that was a messed up movie." And the person was like, "Oh yeah, there's this other one that just came out too." I was like, "There's a sequel?" It's like, how did I not even know about this stuff? So there's a sequel called Pearl, and that one just came out. I want to say it was like a year ago.
Wait, X and then Pearl?
X and Pearl, yes.
Let me ask you something. Is the same person naming those movies the same person that names the Xbox consoles?
It sounds like it, right? It feels like a real thing to come up with some of these ones, but there's one more movie I guess that's coming out also. It's what was it? It's Maxine, but instead of just Maxine spelt out, it's MAXXINE. So
that's part 3.
Yeah. So
what kind of movie is this?
What's that?
What kind of movie is this?
Horror movies. It's worth watching. It's very interesting. I did not expect what I was going into, but it is. I don't want to ruin anything, but what I will say, like I said, is X is on Netflix, so you can jump in. You can watch that one if you have Netflix. I think I ended up having to grab it on Vudu to get Pearl, the sequel. But dude, it goes places, and it was pretty solid. It feels like something that would have been recommended by MJ Dark says Silent didn't expect. I did not expect the porn. Spoilers. That is all I will say about that. But yeah, it goes places, and the characters are very dynamic. The characters, they do a really good job at adding like that atmospheric anxiety and tension with the characters, and it's it's unsettling. I'd strongly recommend watching them because it feels like awful, but at the same time you can't stop watching. So it's worth watching those if you're up for something a little different in the horror genre. But that's been about it, I think, man. Like some Brotato and that. Oh, I did start back up into Doom Eternal a little bit.
Okay.
Played a little bit of that, but I think I only got like a half hour in or something. Then I had to run off and do stuff. But yeah.
Nice, sweet, sweet. Uh, is that me? Yeah, that was probably me. Okay, well, Plume, how are you doing, man? And what have you been playing, or what have you been watching?
Um, well, I'm doing good. First of all, it's been a good couple of days. We have some. It's been actually raining a lot here, but I've been able to get some stuff done around the house outside and stuff, which is always nice because the rain. If it continuously rains, I never get anything done. But in terms of what I've been playing, what have I been playing? Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I've been jumping into that, which is actually a really fun game. One of the best looking games that I've seen, maybe the best looking game that I've seen this generation, and I feel like in about a week from now, that's going to be in second place when Hellblade 2 comes out. So, um, other than that, I've been. What else have I jumped to? Oh, we were talking about Hellblade 2. I've actually been going through the first Hellblade again because I played the first Hellblade and I didn't give it that much of a chance. As I'm going through it again right now, it is growing on me. I found the first Hellblade just kind of boring overall with like the puzzles and the combat and stuff. And I'm going through it again now, and like I have headphones on, and I'm really like getting into what they were going for with the whole uh like psychosis stuff, and you're hearing it in your on your headphones, and if you're
Yeah,
just like really locked in, it actually is an experience that I don't think I've ever really had before. And I don't know why I didn't feel this the first time, but now that I'm playing it, maybe because I've played it, I tried it a while ago, and have changed in my maturity and stuff. I don't know, but it is, especially when you get that like dark voice talking, it's really, really like high production quality. I find on the audio side for the game for the first one, and I'm enjoying it. I mean, the combat I still think isn't great. It's like just choreographed. It's it is what it is. But I guess combat's not really the point of it. But now, as I'm going through that, I'm going to finish it before 2 comes out. I am pretty excited to see how they're going to improve onto with the whole budget and the graphics and just the audio. I think is probably the most exciting thing if they're going to make it even better than the first one, which I thought was so far has been
yeah.
pretty spectacular. So that's what I've been playing.
All right, nice, nice.
What have you been playing? And how are you doing?
Oh, you should have waited because I had the Lou cue there where he would always say, "So you're not gonna ask me what I've been playing?" Oh man, no, I've been playing. Well, I tried. Well, first of all, I was playing Dragon Dogma, and I've been having issues with Dragon Dogma, unfortunately. So I got to a point where I decided, you know what, I'm gonna jump into another game, take a little break, because I already got, I want to say like 70 hours maybe into it, and I was gonna go back to Stalker. Unfortunately, it doesn't have control support on the ROG Ally, so I decided to go to Mass Effect 3 since, I left off, I finished 1 and 2, and I wanted a break on that. So I think I had a long enough break, and now I went back to Mass Effect 3. So I probably have like, I want to say like 2 hours into it, and the beginning was spectacular and really into it. I really like the Mass Effect saga, I want to say, or series. Uh, Really growing into me. It might be my top trilogy once I'm done with this. Definitely. All right. Well, anyway, for today, quick flight itinerary. We're gonna talk, of course, about Square Enix. For crazy update, we don't have Crazy Lou, but what we'll do is we gotta talk about that Assassin's Creed Shadow. I don't know if you guys seen anything about it, but we're definitely going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the 2 new bosses that Tony has. So without further ado, Captain, are you ready? It's time for the
No.
intake.
I'm just kidding. Yeah,
The
we're good.
in-flight announcement.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, Sour has turned on that subscribe button. Please stow your food and beverages next to your desk, underneath your seat, or in front of you. Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelt. Also, make sure you've hit that like and subscribe as we take off. We gently remind you that smoking and drinking are not prohibited on this flight. However, losing your mind about about the hardware sales over the last couple of days and getting bent out of shape because your precious Final Fantasy is no longer a PS exclusive is strictly prohibited. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask one of our flight panelists today. Thank you.
Captain, before you go,
What?
I know Lou would initially do that, but can you give a quick shout out to that chat? And you're muted.
Maybe. All right. Well, yeah. So we've got MJ Dark in the house. Good evening, sir. We got it's Timmy V2. I gotta see if I can do it like Louis. We got a Sourblow. We got a Sourblow in the house. Sourblow. Let's see. We also have Kay Asante. Good evening, good sir. It's good to see you here. We've got Ray Chi hanging out. MJ Dark being surly in the chat, it looks like, talking about Code Veronica again for some reason. I see a Plume in there hanging out. We've got an Adidas 20 right here. Just dropped a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, sir, for the support. He says, "Let's go. I'm here." Officially, the show can now start because Adidas is here.
Adidas always
Yes,
very
sir.
supportive. Appreciate that.
Yes, we definitely appreciate that. And CFresh 2180 is in the chat as well. Getting salty also. He's like, no new games?
Like we're not playing no new games.
I
That's
think
what
he's
he means?
saying no new released games, I'm guessing. But yeah.
Because the best deal in gaming just keeps our backlog flowing. So always gets to play.
We'll go with that.
Okay, we'll go with that. Definitely. Okay, what's next on the show? I'm kind of lost today. I do kind of miss Lou.
I was about to say, without Louis, everything's just
it feels kind of All right, well let's try to go through the episode. So okay, let's talk about Square Enix. So, Square announced a range of business strategy focus in the shift to better their output and their profitability. So, in this announcement, some of the things that they kind of focus on, they're going to focus on enhancing productivity by focusing on quality over quantity. So, I guess they're gonna make less games. Where higher details, higher performance, I guess, more focus on uniquely fun designs, revamp development structure to have more organizational integration.
Organizational. Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
You're good.
All right, thanks. And it also says the group will retire its business unit based on organizational design, bringing more development capabilities in-house, shift to a multi-platform strategy. So basically, their games will be in more places. The group will aggressively pursue multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platform, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, especially in regards to major franchise and AAA titles, including catalog titles. So more integrated sales and marketing, rebuild overseas business divisions from the ground up, among other things. And among other things. So, right, let's revamp back. Okay, so one of the first thing, the obvious thing is, so they're gonna drop the exclusivity. They're basically gonna bring their games to more places, and it's obviously the reason why. Plume has actually talked a little bit about this. So, Plume, how soon will we see Final Fantasy games, and what do you think about this the sudden shift on Square Enix.
Well, I think how soon will we see Final Fantasy games on Xbox is what you're asking. Um, well, the next mainline one definitely. That one's going to be everywhere. So Final Fantasy 17. I know for Final Fantasy 16 it is going to PC, and I think we've seen hints of them bringing it or wanting to develop it for Xbox as well. I think once the exclusivity ends, we may see a port of 16 because obviously the sales of it and the revenues and profits they specifically said just weren't good enough, and they were exclusive to PlayStation. I know there was a huge like discussion and back and forth on social media where people were trying to like spin this narrative into the fact that it had nothing to do with PlayStation and it was all of these other things, but they literally said it was that the sales of the games on PlayStation did not meet their expectations. So whatever however people want to take that, I guess that's for you. But they say that that's what they said. So I think we will be seeing ports of those ones sooner rather than later. Final Fantasy VII remake, that one's probably been signed to oblivion on PlayStation, right? They probably have that exclusive until they finish part 3, and then maybe after that we'll get like a trilogy because they're going to want to milk that and they're going to release all of them in one package. Maybe that one will come to Xbox. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is good. I mean, I've even when it comes to like Xbox games and the whole outrage about Xbox putting games on PlayStation, it's like I've always thought that there's the more people that play games, the better, and the more people you don't gain anything from somebody on a different platform not being able to play that game, and it's just the way that the industry has to go with the rising cost of games and not enough people playing and buying newer games, and they're not making enough profits and all of that those things. It's the way that it is going with all of these major companies, except for Nintendo, of course, because it costs them like a quarter of the amount probably to develop their first party titles. So not
Yeah.
surprised. I am not surprised that this is where Square Enix is going. The writing was also kind of on the wall as we saw the new president come in and the relationship they were building with Phil Spencer and having Final Fantasy 14 coming over to Xbox and all of that stuff. So I'm actually not surprised at all that this is happening. I think it's good though overall.
Yeah. I also think if you look at what Capcom's been doing, they're probably, looking at that and they're like,
Yeah.
we're kind of, if you kind of look at it, they're kind of in the situation that Capcom was a few years back. And I feel like if they can turn things around, then hopefully they can they can come around like Capcom did.
Yeah, and I've never understood the reasoning why a publisher would want to reduce their reach for their games, other than the bag that like Sony or Xbox drops is just so big. But I just think now with how much it's costing to develop these games and they have to reach so many people to be able to make their money back. I don't even know if like the bag right now from Sony, is it even worth it for Sony to drop that big of a bag to keep those games exclusive on their platform? It's not really even pushing um, them forward that much. So I think it's all just the way that the industry is going to go, opening up everything for less exclusivity, which again, I think it's just a win for gamers. And we'll see all the complaints about it though, as it continues to happen.
I also see it, I don't know if you see it the same way, but I see it like, I understand like a new IP, like taking risks. It's kind of more like difficult for a publisher to probably take that risk. So I understand maybe getting the bag for like a new IP, but
Yeah.
something established like Final Fantasy, I definitely think it makes no sense. I don't know if you see it the same way.
Um, sorry to get that exclusive.
Like for example, Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
right? It's a well known franchise for years, even before it's being exclusive on PlayStation. I didn't quite understand locking that specific game
Yeah.
because it's already a well known game. You don't need the funds for that because like
Yeah.
you
No,
yeah
I agree. I agree with you on that too. And I was reading Dark's comment about Nintendo. That's why I kind of got sidetracked. But yeah, like it is a mainstream game. This isn't like it isn't like a smaller a JRPG or something that people don't know about in the West. Like this is a mainstream game now around the world. So the audience is already huge for it. You don't really need that extra push or that extra marketing that you get from these deals. But like Dark says, where exclusives really only matter now at this point is for Nintendo. But I think that's just because they have a completely different business model in the way that and how they develop their games and the prices and the costs of them and their demographics that their games appeal to, right? Because like a Final Fantasy it is mainstream, it is big, but it is still specifically targeted towards a certain demographic of gamers, right? But when you look at Nintendo, it's like Super Mario, the demographic of people that are going to be playing that game range from a grandma down to like a 5-year-old. Like it's just like the entire body of people playing video games would pick up a game like that. So there's just a lot of difference, I think, when we look at like Square, those big publishers that make those like more mature games than Xbox and PlayStation stuff. But yeah, like Final Fantasy is super mainstream. I don't see why they would want to reduce their reach.
All right. Okay. Well, how about Thailand? You have anything to add to the whole exclusivity? And are you sad that PlayStation is gonna lose that exclusivity? No, just kidding. What do you think about all this?
No. No, I'm kidding. I kid. No, so the Final Fantasy situation is interesting because I feel like for the longest time the conversation was always like, this thing will never be back on Xbox. It's not going to be on Nintendo. Like I feel like it's been kind of, we've just seen it so many times where like this timed exclusivity continues to kick out farther and farther. And so it almost felt like we were never going to see Final Fantasy stuff come back in that same fashion. Like maybe we'd still get some of the remasters of like the old games, like the bit games and stuff, but maybe not some of the newer stuff, because it felt like they had it just locked down just right with those terms and agreement. So this was an interesting change of pace. I honestly, I mean, I know it was starting to go in that direction when they got a new boss over there at Square, right? Like that was kind of the first telltale sign to us that things were going to change. But I guess I still didn't know exactly like, well, how fast is that going to happen? And I think because of what we're seeing now, obviously, like it is a high priority for them. They want to make sure that they are not hemorrhaging money if they can avoid it. It's weird, and the conversation with it online for the last few days has been really weird. Because like a bunch of people keep saying that Final Fantasy is a niche title and like a niche style and genre. I'm like, dude, I may not like Final Fantasies myself. It may not be my thing, but you're out of your mind if you think that Final Fantasy's a niche audience or title. Like that game is popular. It is very popular across all the consoles. If it's ever been on one, it's got fans. It is very well received in general. So it's a weird one to hear that, like to hear people trying to justify like, oh well, this doesn't matter, blah blah blah. It's a small thing anyways, whatever. Which, like I said, for me, I don't really gain anything too much from this, but I'm very excited to see that other people have the opportunity to play their Final Fantasies on Xbox, PC, Nintendo, PlayStation, wherever. Business sense, it just makes business sense. Like they, especially with the way the market is right now, it makes more sense for you to broaden your reach and make sure that anyone who's interested in your game can buy your game. You look at it right now, Microsoft's doing the same thing. Sony's going to be doing the same thing in regards to getting stuff onto PC faster over time. Like this is where everyone is going in the industry right now. And I think it's probably one of the smarter things that they could do, because we've seen a lot of people have to close up shop because they're just not making ends meet when it comes to these releases. And especially given, what was it? I think it was Final Fantasy. God, what was the last one that came out? That was
16.
16. Yeah,
Yeah.
when 16 came out, like that had a sizable budget. And so to not have that thing releasing on multiple systems to try and like gain back some of that is bizarre to me. Like it makes a lot of sense to make sure that you can try and get that return on investment. Like get that thing out there, get your return, get some people getting in on that game. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's exciting to see some of this stuff actually spreading out and going to other systems. I think I do like some of the ways that they phrase this whole thing though, because it just it reeks of HR talk or of like PR talk, right? More focus on uniquely fun design. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I'm sorry. Like, what are we talking about? Like, if you said more manageable or more approachable game mechanics, like something like that makes sense. But a more uniquely fun design, like get out of here with that shit. But I am excited to see them making these changes. I think it's going to benefit them in the long run. And I do get a little confused though, because they say that they want to focus on the quality over quantity. It's not like they're pumping those games out that fast.
Mm-mm.
So and they are usually pretty high quality in regards to like the visuals, the gameplay.
Yeah.
Usually, I mean, there's occasionally an off occurrence, but that some of that seems a little just again PR speak for the sake of PR speak. I think the games are still going to be very much what they are now. Maybe in the process of some of this stuff, now that some of these walls are starting to break down, maybe we'll start to see some more of like the Dragon Quest and some of the other IPs and stuff start to kick out to the other devs faster as well. I don't know. I was talking to Luke in the chat. Shout out to Luke. He was mentioning the idea of timed exclusivity. And I agree with him that like I'd rather see a timed exclusivity than a full exclusivity. I think the thing that I would like to see though, because we saw this with Final Fantasy VII, where when that thing got brought out, like there were terms that it was going to be a timed exclusive, and then it would come to Xbox. And then because of the way that their terms are, they had the option to go back in and they could renew that timed exclusive and bounce out the release, right? Like, so they could make the exclusivity a longer agreement if they wanted to. That was per Sony's actual agreements. I don't know if you remember a few months ago when we were looking over all of their details for their contracts and exclusivity rights. But that's one of the things that they said is if they were coming up to or if they reached the end of their exclusivity, they had the option, they had first right of refusal. So they could go back in, they could be like, no, we want to extend it. And so I think like I'm cool with there being timed exclusive stuff still, because I get it. Like you got to get your money where you can to make it so your game is supported and funded, of course. But I think it would be nice to see maybe the exclusivity agreements kind of modified, just so maybe that first right of refusal isn't as stringent as it is, because it feels like a whole bunch of fans of Final Fantasy VII got shafted hard just because Sony kept just being like, nope, here's the bag. Nope, here's the bag. And I mean, we don't know how much that bag was, but I would imagine had you released it multi-platform instead of taking that bag at that point, you would have made more money as a company. That's just a guess, but I would think if you kicked it to Xbox, to Nintendo, to PC, and you had your PS install base, that would have been way bigger than what bag they probably threw at them as far as the actual financial backing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the reason also that they're making this shift is because obviously the money they got from the upfront back wasn't enough. Because if it would have been enough, they would have probably remained with the same strategy, I assume. But But yeah, that's kind of what's going on with the exclusivity part. Now, I will kind of want to run this by you guys because I found this other part very interesting, where it says rebuild overseas business division from from the ground up. Didn't they had overseas studios and sold them away? So
So starting them from the ground up. I don't know.
So-
Plume, what were you saying?
Didn't they sell Crystal Dynamics?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Eidos Montreal.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think this even means? Start with you, Plume, since you're already on screen.
Oh, I don't. They're gonna rebuild studios from the ground up. I don't know. Maybe they're focusing on like smaller indie studios or just studios that are gonna make smaller games that they can hopefully make a lot more money off of. I don't know. That would make it doesn't make any sense. I guess they already had studios. They already had established IPs within those studios that they could have brought back. That there was a dedicated fan base for, and could have made money off of those, but they decided to sell them, and they actually did not sell them for very much. Right? They didn't. They lost badly on that deal, I believe, because
I think
Racer
so.
was able
Yeah.
to flip it, and so I don't know.
I don't remember the price, but I do remember that the price that they sold Crystal Dynamic for,
Yeah.
just on the Tomb Raider IP, Embracer Group got double the amount.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it was more than that even, because I think, don't quote me on the, okay, Raichi's saying about 300.
300 billion, yeah.
And I think they got 600 for the Tomb Raider IP.
I thought it was closer to like 750, but
Okay.
I mean, whatever the case is, like Embracer made some dough on that purchase. And yeah,
that must show that they were desperate. Like they were in dire need to offload
absolutely
cash or to offload the expenses from them. So I don't know. I could see like more studios going and making smaller titles and jumping into games that will cost less. But then again, like you look at like what Ubisoft did, which their games are always massive. They double down and triple down on Assassin's Creed because that always makes them a ton of money. But then they go out and make a small Prince of Persia game spin-off, which was an incredible game, and that did not do very well financially for them. So I think they're in they're in a tough spot right now on how they can go about their future of developing games. But yeah.
Real quick before we keep going in on this stuff, I just wanted to go back up real fast because we're a little late on some super chat action. Dron TJ ended up gifting a Xbox International podcast membership. Thank you so much, sir. Much appreciated. We do appreciate that. That was actually cool. It was Luke, Xbox Expansion Pass. Was
nice.
Gifted. So that's awesome. That's it's in good hands. And then we also had super chat from MJ Dark. $1.99 super chat. He says, Plume exclusives matter at Nintendo. The GOAT is what he says. I'll go ahead and let you jump on that real quick in a second, but I will say they also believe in re-releasing the same game 30 times and making you pay for it every time. And you're going to pay for it every time because you're a sucker. Continue.
Actually, how about you? What do you think about this overseas building studios?
It sure seems... here's the thing. Like, I get it that, like, maybe they needed that short injection of financial support, right? So, like, doing a quick sell-off to get some of that covered, like, sometimes it's what you gotta do. Maybe they couldn't work out a loan of some sort or get something figured out to not, jettison some of those companies or those studios. But, dude, like... imagine being in their position right now. Like if it's literally the way that we're thinking, you just got rid of those studios in like international areas, and now you're literally just like rebuilding them. Like that sucks. Like the talent that you had there, the studio spaces, like that sucks to have to redo all that work. That's a real bummer. But just like them selling Crystal Dynamics, like you guys were saying, is like they must have been in a pretty bad spot if they were willing to take that low of a cost to sell that thing. So I don't know. It's hopefully everything works out for them. Hopefully these moves that they're making right now, bringing Final Fantasy and maybe some other stuff more to a broad audience, will help them in the long run. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so too. I was the other day I saw a comment that kind of it's not directly related to this, but I feel for like the developers because like I think it was a developer that mentioned this. Like, what developer is going to want to relocate nowadays with all these like, because like all these layouts, like you don't have your job like secure. So if you relocate and then you could just let go anytime, like I really feel for them. Uh,
That's the other thing too, right? Is like we've seen some of these people. Occasionally, they'll come back to a studio, like years later, or when something ramps up again. It's like we even saw it with Embracer. That was a real kick in the pants. Is like the Time Splitters guys, like some of those guys who had worked on it back in the day came back just to have it shuttered.
yeah,
It's like I would imagine maybe they'd try and target some of the talent that they lost previously, but I'm guessing most of those people, well, at least hopefully, most of those people ended up landing a good job after they shuttered those studios, right? Like, and in that situation, I think I would be pretty hesitant. Like, even if I was working on stuff I really enjoyed and you told me it was coming back, I think I'd be a little bit hesitant to jump back on board. So I'd be like, homie, you shit canned me like 8 months ago. you want me to come back and you're telling me everything's going to be okay this time? Like, I don't know about that. So I don't know if they'd even be able to really recall some of those people that they had previously. Like those people are probably a little burnt on the situation.
yeah, definitely, definitely feel for them. Okay, well, moving along with the whole situation with them building studios, moving on to the sales. Real quick, just to close this topic, I want to get your thoughts on the Final Fantasy franchise, which you said mentioned earlier that it's definitely not a niche, um, a niche game or niche franchise, but it is, the numbers are going down, so they're gonna have to do something about it. We got Final Fantasy 15 sold 5 million in a day. We have Final Fantasy 7 remake sold 3.5 in 3 days. Final Fantasy 16 3 millions in 6 days. And then we have no numbers on the Final Fantasy 7 remake 2, which it does not, that does not look good, basically.
I haven't heard anything making it sound making it sound like it did astronomical sales.
What we've heard though, I believe, is that it did worse than part 1.
Okay, so that will be part 1 did what, 3.5 in 3 days?
Yeah.
So did less than that. So
how bad? Who knows? But if it did worse, yeah.
What's the difference between 15 and all of those? Right, is 15 was on every platform, or was on Xbox. So that's probably where they make up a couple million of those sales, I would guess, or a couple 100,000 of those sales.
It didn't. And sorry about that.
Was it something I said?
Press wrong button.
He's like, show's over.
I was trying to restart the show again.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm angry. Square Enix is going multi-platform. Stay on PlayStation only.
Okay, so what I was gonna say. Okay, what I was gonna say is what I was gonna say. Basically, so the game being on more platform, even if it sells much less on Xbox, it definitely, I feel, definitely helps. And not only, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Final Fantasy 15 had um like co-op or like a multiplayer mode or something like that. Did
I
it?
I only played it single player. I forget if it had.
I believe it did, or maybe
Maybe.
I'm wrong. So okay, maybe I'm wrong, but chat might correct me. But if it did, that would only help because, like, if you have a friend that has it on Xbox, even if you have a PlayStation, that will incentivize you to actually get the game. And even if it's not multiplayer, sometimes you have friends that might have it on a different platform and they might sell you on the game. So the more exposure the game has, the more probability that more people are going to continue to buy it. That's why Game Pass kind of helped sell sometimes, especially for games that are not like very like well like recognized, like people don't know about them. But because it's on Game Pass, more people try it, more people talk about it, and that's why more people get to play the game. So definitely do agree that the best strategy is to definitely put Final Fantasy on all the platforms, especially with the sales going down. A lot of people. So something else I think that has probably hurt Final Fantasy is too. If you look at it, like they have been making a lot of like changes to the franchise, and I feel like some people might like the changes, other people might not like it. So I think they need to like sit down, visualize what changes do they really want to make, and you know set your foot forward on these are the changes we're gonna make. Like I understand you have to evolve, kind of like what they did with, kind of like what Nintendo did with Zelda. But if you look at Zelda Breath of the Wild and then Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, it doesn't go like they didn't completely like change the mechanic. They evolved on that.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that was probably, but when it comes to 16, right? I feel like that's one of the main reasons why they went with like a very action based, like Devil May Cry style of combat. And because that appeals more to more people, right? To a broader range of customers. And then maybe they were hoping that that would help push their sales higher. But obviously that isn't the case. There was also a lot of like people upset. They really want Final Fantasy to go back to turn based and all the and go back to like the older styles. So I don't think they ever will. I don't think that will ever happen. But um, I feel like that they've been trying to because they know like when we talk about it, is it a niche game? It's clearly not a niche game. Final Fantasy hasn't been a niche game for a while. It's probably their most popular IP, right? So they're going to create this game that appeals to a broad range of people. If it was super niche, they probably wouldn't even take as many chances with combat and
Yeah.
story and stuff. They would just be focusing on what their main customers want.
Here's the problem though. Like, if the game was exclusive to PlayStation and they made the changes to make it more action based, right there, that's gonna hurt them right there. What they should have done is made the entire game quick time events, and that would have boosted
Could have just
sales.
released a movie instead of a video game, and it would have sold 10 million day one.
Nah, jokes aside.
I feel dirty. I feel dirty after that. Tyler,
Silent was like waiting for.
well, yeah, I was like, he's going somewhere with this. I didn't realize where you're going, but
I
yeah,
thought it was going to be a really serious point. I was like,
I know, I know. I was like, he's hitting home runners. He's going for the end of the field. No, no, he's taking a check with the back of the baseball bat.
one of the points that the chat is bringing up, which is absolutely completely correct, is that the first Final Fantasy VII remake was also released on a much larger install base on the PS4. I feel like they should have released part two on the PS4 as well. I'm sure they could have.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I agree fully. Yeah, Luke mentioned that, I think, because he said that there's 5 times as many PS5s as Xboxes, but then also made the comment, yeah, FF7 was also on PS4. It's like anytime you cut out anytime you cut out a previous generation when you're doing those cross-generational releases, or when you suddenly decide it's no longer going to be a cross-general or generational, it's like you're leaving table, or you're leaving table. Good lord, I'm having a freaking stroke. You're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
It sucks. Like, we've seen it so many times over the years where like finally a game goes and it's like you're excited because they focus specifically on the new console, potentially, or at least that's what they tell you. But then they get rid of the cross generational, and you're like, but I mean, in the same case with what PS4 is like 120 or 130 million units that you've
Big
now
number.
just like sacrificed, and people still have them, because even what I think it was even last year going into the holidays, they were running out of PS5s originally as they were going into the holidays, so they bolstered up their production of PS4s again. Like, I don't know if you guys remember that, but they were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're making more PS4s again," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Huh? Okay."
Yeah.
So like they knew they were out there. It sucks when that happens, though. It's a bummer.
All
And
right.
I think as well, these publishers are all just sitting there and they're like, well, they're sitting there praying that Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be able to play all of their games, and that it'll sell, and they'll have a huge transfer rate over from the current Switch to the Switch 2 so they can release games on there as well. Because I wonder when they were making this game if they would have been able to release it on the Nintendo Switch if they would have signed the deal with PlayStation, just because of how
Yeah.
many people have a Switch.
I don't. Uh, I'm I was gonna say that I hate to be the bearer of bad news, or like hate to be that guy, but I actually do love to be that guy. I don't think the new Nintendo is gonna be able to play all the games.
Yeah, maybe not.
Um, I, it, I don't know. I mean, we keep seeing conversation back and forth, right? Like, one week it sounds like Nintendo's new system's going to be like super powerful, and then the next time we hear like, it's like a small step up from what it is right now.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I'm thinking slightly under the Series S, and if they can just
Yeah,
downscale these games significantly, they'll get them
that
on there just for the people.
that that seems to be what the general consensus is. I feel like that's where it keeps settling back in on, is usually people are saying like, oh, it's going to be right there around like a Series S, in regards to the actual capability of the system.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, you got stuff like Doom and other games on the Switch, so like it's doable, but at what resolution? That's where it gets a little dicey, because I think Doom, if I remember correctly, that got really soapy in some areas where like it felt very blurry, both because of the action on screen, but also because the resolution dropped down so much. But noisy mofo in the chat says Cypher, it's going to blow your mind. I hope so. I hope so.
It is. It is. And
Well,
I actually just got a text message telling me what the Switch 2 is gonna be capable of. So it's gonna be bearing a 6090 Ti, and it's
yeah,
If you,
it's got a dock that's built into a backpack, so kind of like one of the Ghostbusters packs.
yeah.
Yeah.
if you don't name your source, I don't believe it.
Switch 2 will be a force to be reckoned with. Dark. I hope for your sake and for all of you Nintendo fans it is, because dude, considering this is what, the second or third time that we've been going towards the March deadline, and you're like, the system's coming, it's got to be announced this year, and every time it's gotten kicked out. Like, it sounds like it's finally happening, but dear God, you guys have waited long enough for me to
It's
say
not
it.
even. It's not even going to be announced this summer. They already said that.
No,
So.
no. Yeah, I'm guessing probably January.
It's because they're
That's
all
just my
just
guess.
sitting there waiting to beat the record for the best-selling console of all time. That's all they care about at this point. They
They
don't want to
did. Well,
kill
yeah,
that
like, why
momentum.
exactly? Like, why would you? put yourself in Nintendo's shoes. Like, why would you deviate from the current plan? Every single fan is paying like $60 when you bring out the exact same Mario Kart that they had like 2 generations previous. They buy the DLC that you probably didn't have to put that much time into. Like, everything they brought out, if it's not actually a full-on new release, like, it's just an iterative thing usually. So like, they're making money, and like you said, they're close to the point where they get to say that it's like the best selling console at this point, because they're nearing that number. So
Just wait till the Switch 2 comes out. It's gonna have more RAM, okay?
more RAM is great, but if you have a bottleneck elsewhere, that doesn't do you jack shit.
It doesn't
Sorry.
matter, okay? It's gonna release with a new Mario, okay? So
No.
If it releases with
It's not
Metroid
gonna
Prime
release with a
4,
new
Mario, and a Zelda game that is just slightly upgraded.
it's
real talk.
they'll
Do
spread
you
those
really
games.
do you really think that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out?
Do I really?
Actually,
Like,
yeah. No, I'm not trying to be an ass goblin about it, but like, seriously, that game.
I've lost all hope in Metroid Prime 4, but it will come out. It's just like I don't even get excited anymore when I hear anything about it, because it's just like they trolled us for so long with this game.
Yeah.
My like excitement is now just like, okay, just release the damn thing.
It's been so many years now. It is unreal.
Speaking about Metro, our next topic, Silent. You have it ready, or
Our next topic isn't Metro.
it is not? It has. It's related. It has something to do with shadows.
Dude, that was terrible.
It's in the dark. I'm taking
Anyway.
Crazy Loose Spot today.
Yeah, making me cringe. I got you. So the next topic is actually Assassin's Creed Shadows. So they released a trailer this morning. Did you guys see that real quick before we go any further?
Yes.
Cool. I'm glad you guys did. I was at work. No, I did just watch it a few minutes ago though. It looks good, and already on the internet I am seeing people lose their mind over the conspiracy of having. You know what? Never mind. We're not even going to start that with the first foot. But yeah, so some of the details for this one, we know that it's going to be a next gen only. And it's using the updated Anvil engine, I guess. So it looks, I mean, we didn't see any gameplay in that, right? I don't think.
No.
I think that was just CG.
Just cinematic.
CJC.
But yeah, so time period sees kind of a range of activity. It includes a lot of different characters, a lot of different things going on. It feels like there's some like Portuguese merchants, there's Legend of Samurai type of stuff. We're seeing like shinobi type stuff referred to. There's like Jesuit missionaries. There's a lot going on. So I kind of wonder,
what are you talking about?
Yeah. Missionaries. Did you go back and watch it? Anyways, there's a lot of different characters in it. So it looks like some of the hubs, maybe they're opening things up a little bit. I don't know, and maybe it's not just like one location, or maybe it's over like multiple periods a little bit. Because it kind of feels like there's a lot of different characters in this.
I think they I think I saw it's gonna be on a time period. It is gonna be on a time period.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
1579 during the Azuchi Moyoyama period.
Yes.
Well, then I was wrong, and I'll take my rocks now.
Okay, you didn't watch the trailer. You didn't watch the trailer. You're off.
I did watch the trailer. I happened to watch it while I was multitasking on this. Sorry, guys. Yeah, no. So from what we can tell, so this character is a real historical figure. Oh, God. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out a way to jump into that side of things. People are freaking out because the samurai is black. Well, we'll rip the band-aid. The internet is in a tear for some reason about this, which is wild because like this is like a historical figure. Why is this the conversation we're having? Why are people freaking out? Have they not? Why Twitter? Why are you the way you are? I guess is what I want to ask. Like, it feels like the internet has gotten so angry about that instead of focusing on the time period, focusing on the game, which from what we saw, it looks really good. It looks honestly like a breath of fresh air in regards to just the scenery, like the landscape and everything looks uh, intriguing to me. I don't know. I've always wanted one kind of in this type of setting. We got that one that was what it was like a side scroller years
Yeah.
ago. That did not feel that
No,
like it
I
did
know
not
what
no.
scratch that itch.
Wasn't that like a
So
phone game or something like that?
So I believe there was a mobile version, but they did also release those eventually. They ported them to the systems, and if I remember correctly, I think they charged like $20 per. So it was a little gross when those finally came to console, but yeah, they were okay. They were okay, but it was not what people were looking for like an actual Assassin's Creed, right? So from what we can tell, also like the fighting style has more like head-on direct combat. It's got a lot of parries, breaking, like the armor plates and stuff. It looks like it does a lot with the actual armor system, which looks cool. Like I'd be excited to see. Like, could you imagine going in there and having like someone with like a full-on decked out like samurai armor on and like being able to damage that or like weather it as you're in a battle and stuff? Like, I'd imagine there will probably be some of that with some pretty intense bosses in the process, which would be really cool. Sorry, Raichi just mentioned AC Chronicles games were so boring. Even the games on Java phone. Wait a minute. What? You're a Java phone. But yeah. So those are a couple of the main things to keep in mind. Obviously, controversy, but with that aside, the game in general looks really good. Um, I'm excited because I think what the release date on that they were saying is in November. Um, of which I'm excited about, but I'm also a little nervous because we already have a bunch of other games that are lined up for November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I guess one of the first questions I want to ask you guys, and we can go into more details if there's specific things that you guys saw, but I guess my question would be, given everything that's coming out around that time frame, is this one that you would end up picking up day one?
Quick question before we go on. I have more detail here. Do you want us to answer that and then I can
Yeah.
add that, or
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just touch on this real quick and then we can keep going into more detail. Again, like I don't have a ton. You have more detail on it than I do because my visual looks like it went
Yeah.
through the grinder. So
We have a little issues with the note here with
little
Thailand,
bit. Thanks,
but here I'll jump on this real quick. So, I was a huge Assassin's Creed fan. To a certain point, I played the Ezio trilogy. Then I played, I think the next one was like Assassin's Creed 3. Um, and let's just say I grew tired of the Assassin's Creed mechanic, maybe because I played so much of it, especially Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, because I love that setting. And one of the reasons why when I got into architecture was because I love Greece, I love Rome, and it was in that setting, and I would just spend so much time just roaming around, all those buildings and all those areas, those historical places. Since then, I haven't been as hyped for an Assassin's Creed. Now, this setting really, you know, like it really grabbed my attention. Like I'm very interested in the game. Of course, I want to see gameplay. Will I get it in November? It's all gonna depend because I'm definitely waiting on Stalker 2, and then I also want to play a Vow, which I don't know what time it's gonna come out, but it's definitely gonna be there. I'm definitely gonna go get into it sometime. Another thing is like the whole thing with being a ninja or being a shinobi, like that's really cool. I love the whole aspect of playing stealth. If the stealth mechanics are good, then this game has me. And I also love the setting with the whole feudal. That's how you say it in English.
Feudal Japan.
Feudal. Okay,
Yeah.
with the feudal Japan. So definitely, yeah, I'm definitely interested in this. I don't know about Plume.
Oh, absolutely. This game is on top of my list now for the end of the year. I mean, it's mainly because I've enjoyed like all the Assassin's Creed games that I've played. I just finished Mirage. I played through the last 3 big open world ones, and I know those games turned off people because they were too big. But I was one of those people who put in like hundreds of hours into them. So I love I loved Valhalla. Valhalla people, the biggest complaint about Valhalla was just way too big. I played through the main story. I did a bunch of side quests. I played the DLC. So I'm very excited for this. And one of the things too with this game is if I think they're doing, which is very smart, is they've obviously heard about some of the complaints about Valhalla being too big. They're saying that this one is as big as Origins, which out of all of the open world games is the smallest one. And it's actually probably the perfect size for these open world Assassin's Creed games. So I don't know if you guys played that one in ancient Egypt, but it was really cool. So yeah, super excited about that. I love the setting in feudal Japan. Like that's very cool. And what I'm been reading as after I watched the trailer, I was reading about it is that the stealth is they're actually finally bringing back like real AC stealth into these open world games because we got the real AC stealth back in Mirage. I thought it was well done, but they're actually bringing this back to Shadows, and they're saying it's basically kind of like Splinter Cell. Like they're bringing a lot of Splinter Cell elements into this game,
Right.
which
Which that'll be nice considering we don't have any other games doing any of that right now.
Yeah. Yes.
Looking at you, Ubisoft.
they
Quit.
could make a Splinter Cell game, but
Well, supposedly there is one in the works, but
yeah.
I mean, who knows when we're gonna actually see it, right? Like that one seems like that's maybe still a long ways away. Who knows? Yeah, so something I was thinking of as you were talking. I guess one thing that intrigued me a lot was it looks like, and again, like it's a cutscene or it's just a CG thing, but like it seems like it's very detailed, like it's very dense. The population, it feels like, in those different scenes that they showed us, like the market and some of those other areas, even just when you're like looking at one of the compounds and it's like kind of like panning in and coming down like over the forest, it looks it looks like it's just very dense. It'd be really cool if that were the case because I feel like some of those older games, I don't know, it may have been like a requirement issue where they were having issues with bottleneck for like not enough RAM or stuff like that. But it feels like some of those games were very barren in certain areas. Like some were very like desolate. You'd be walking down a city center and felt that there were like 10 people and you're like, this doesn't match up. But then some of the games did really well with having like a very massive group of people and like just people walking all over the place. Something like this, I could see just from what they're showing off, it looks like it'll be very dense in regards to like the actual AI and stuff too. Yeah, even AC1, like the original Assassin's Creed, had a ton of people, like Ray Cheese mentioning. There were one or two of them. I forget what it was, and I don't know if it was just because they didn't develop some of those specific areas very much or what. But there were a couple times where I felt like it's like this big bustling city, and you walk in and there was like nothing happening, and it's like midday. And you're like, where'd everyone go? It's like everyone's just gone. So this does not give me that same feeling. It seems like it's going to be very dense, which is cool.
Yeah, and it's only on the current gen consoles, so they're not doing a cross gen release on it. So hopefully that'll help too with any potential bottlenecks that they could have. But one thing I will say about Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed is if there's always these conversations about like the frames per second, and I'm guessing this one is going to be 60 frames per second, and they usually are optimize their games very well, because if you look at a Valhalla, which is an incredible looking game, that game was running, they got a 60 FPS patch for that game on the Xbox Series S. So they do some pretty crazy stuff with how good their games actually look and the density of it. And like you said, they have cities with all these huge populations, and then be able to have them actually perform well. So hopefully they don't go back on this and release this one at 30 FPS, but I feel like they'll optimize it pretty good.
That actually brings up a question that I wanted to ask you real quick. Do you think day one that's going to be sitting at 60, or is it going to be like Valhalla, where we got that patched in later?
Well, I think it will be 60 on the X. So Valhalla was 60 on the X when it launched. It was the S where it wasn't. So I think yeah, they will.
Was it?
Just based off of their track record.
I think it might have been 60, but it wasn't like stable.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, because I remember playing it on the X and feeling like there was something off. Okay, maybe that's what that was then.
All right. Real quick, I don't know if it's on my end, but I think Plume, sometimes your mic goes up and down.
Oh, sorry. Maybe because I.
No, just caught that. But anyway, let me. I'm gonna go over a few more details on the game, just to just to go over them. So you're gonna have unpredictable weathers, changing seasons, and reactive environment. So it's gonna have spring, summer, fall, and winter. And some examples of this is, for example, in the summer you're gonna be able to like swim in a pond, where like in winter that same pond might be frozen. Another example is in spring, there's going to be like tall grasses where it's going to be perfect for hiding. But when fall comes, it's going to be all dried up. So you're not going to have those hiding areas. There's going to be hanging icicles on building that can snap off and fall, revealing you locations during the winter. So, that's pretty cool. The map, like Plume says, is going to be smaller. It's going to be like Assassin's Creed Origin. And it's going to be focused on the central region of Japan. Naoi, I hope I'm saying it right, Naoi Tools, which is the shinobi character. She's going to be able to use a grapple hook, smoke bomb, kunai, shurikens, and hidden blade. While just Jasuk, I'm sorry, Jasuk's skills. He's gonna have attack, block, parry, a large variety of like different weapons, including katana, kanabu, bows, naginata. I'm gonna have to practice some Japanese.
You gotta brush up on your Japanese.
Yeah, definitely. It's also coming to Mac on day one. Interesting. Let's see. You can hide in the shadows to escape enemy and take out light sources to evade detection. Oh, kind of like Splinter Cell, like you mentioned. You can create a customizable hideout where you can grow and train your own Shinobi League, craft new gears, interact with other characters, and choose your base layout, decorations, and accessories. can I call my Shinobi League the League of Assassins? There's also a huge. Oh, there are huge castles that act like significant landmark throughout the open world that act like dungeons and their own big levels. And there was many other more details. I just got some of them because there's so many.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that came out about it.
But any of this caught your attention, Plume?
The whole thing. I'm really excited for this game. No, everything looks really cool. I mean, if I'm basing it off mainly how much I have enjoyed the other open world games, and they really sound like they've made enough changes here, taken in advice from what people didn't like about the Valhalla specifically, and they're just kind of bringing a different but same package to it, improved and only on these current generation consoles, which I think is going to help it a lot. So yeah, no, I'm really excited. There's another thing that kind of related to the game, but there's this like Assassin's Creed Infinity like hub that apparently is going to be launching with this, I believe, where you're going to have like extra quests within that hub. And I guess it's Ubisoft trying to keep you just within their ecosystem inside of your Xbox or your PlayStation. So I wonder how they're going to integrate that and how that plays with the other Assassin's Creed games that have come out and that they've announced that are coming out in the future. But yeah, everything sounds really cool. The changing of seasons, I mean, that's going to be awesome to see.
That that's a really good point, Plume. I actually forgot about the hub because like they mentioned it way back in the day. Did they mention it again during this stuff? I don't think I remember.
No, they didn't mention it during this, but there was Tom Henderson talked about it like some more.
Okay.
He has talked about it like yesterday or something on Twitter, but they're probably going to talk about a Ubisoft Forward and how it's going to be integrated. I'm guessing this summer during their showcase.
It'll be interesting to see how they approach that because yeah, I feel like so many games have tried to do that, try to get you drawn in to do those constant like daily quests and all that stuff. Something like Destiny, right? You got people going back constantly doing like the raids or doing like their daily objectives and all that stuff. So I wonder if it'd be like that or if they try and be more creative and like add more complexity to it or like some sort of unique gotcha mechanic, right? That like draws you back in. It'd be interesting to see. Like, fingers crossed it's not like tied to like loot boxes and it's like, oh, you get 5 objectives and you get a rare loot box, and
yeah,
hopefully
probably
it's not
will
that.
be. But yeah.
I'm a little nervous every time someone says that they're putting stuff like that. Like, that type of stuff sounds just like what we talked about earlier when we were talking about the Square stuff. And there was the comment about the uniquely fun design. Anytime someone says that they've got something like that or like uniquely fun mechanics, I'm like, fun to who? So fingers crossed it's actually fun and they implement it well. Yeah, that'll be something to be on the lookout for, is that hub. That's a good call. I completely forgot about that.
And hopefully if it is boring, it's just there and you can ignore it.
Yeah,
And
it's there if you want it. It's not forcing your hand for the experience, hopefully. Real quick before we jump on to the next couple of things, I have someone here that just wanted to say hi real fast. So go for it. Sorry.
Hi guys, it's Quandle Dingle here again. I hope you're having a good day and have a good time on the rest of this podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Quandle Dingle.
Quandle Dingle.
They said thank you. All right, sorry. He came down here and he's like, I want my 10 seconds, dang it. Good. I'm glad I got a little bit of a laugh. So yeah, do we want to bounce on to some of the other stuff, or do we want to cover some more details on Assassins?
It's up to you. It's up to you guys.
I think I'm good to move on, but if
no, I'm good. It's exciting.
All right, go for it.
Okay. So another thing that ended up happening, I feel like we I feel like we touched on this a little bit, maybe one of these last times, but Fallout 4's update. I don't know if either of you guys ended up getting your hands on the updated version. Yay, nay, no?
Like the recent one that they just put out?
Yes. Yeah, so they just released their update, right? It's got the new settings, it has the frame rate target to make it so you could do your 30, 40, or 60 FPS. Stability improvements, the visuals in general are kind of locked in better, it feels like, and it's also got the auto HDR. For me, I've really enjoyed what I've played, but I was curious if you guys got into it, because right when it came out, I think I put in like 20 more hours. So I was just curious if you guys jumped back in.
I haven't.
I have so many long games in my catalog, my back catalog, that I cannot jump into, especially with Fallout 5 being like who knows when. Like I don't want to do it, especially when I know when 5 comes, I'm probably gonna want to jump. You know, when they get announced, I probably am gonna end
That's
up.
not going to be out till
yeah.
2035 though.
Right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
So I got some games to catch up.
So you're saying it's permanently in the backlog for now. Then.
For now, yeah, for now.
Okay. And Plume, you said you haven't had the chance yet either.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. Well, I will say for anyone in chat, if you haven't done it and you're looking to fill your time for a few minutes before we get to Hellblade 2 here pretty quick, I would jump back in, mess around with it a little bit, even if you ever beat the game or if you've never played it or you were just like in the middle of a save or something. It is definitely worth jumping back into right now. Just in general, the game plays so much better than it used to. There's still that jank in it that I love, which it's like it's they always get the Bethesda moniker, right? Where it's like there's always going to be bugs. And one of the things I keep having is I'll go into VATS and I'll start attacking them. And if I do too many headshots on a character, sometimes the person, I don't know what's even happening, but it's like they no clip for like a short second and they shoot up into the sky like a bed spring. Like they just, and so like the VATS, like you'll be targeting them and you'll hit him in the head and then suddenly the camera pans and watches him like go to space and then come back down.
That sounds like a good glitch.
I know. I enjoyed those. Like that type of glitch is what I'm here for. Like stuff like that, I'm cool with.
You sure that's not a secret ability?
That one's not a secret ability. No, sadly. Although they do have some of that, right? Like in the upgrades that you can do, you can actually upgrade it so when you kill them, it's way more gory. And that's super awesome. When you have good weapons, like they just turn into giant meaty bloody chunks like all over the place. It's jarring sometimes when you shoot the person, because like you don't know what's going to happen, and because those games do have a little bit of jank to them, sometimes those systems work out in just like the perfect combination of chaos where like suddenly like the person's head explodes and then like the camera zooms into their head and you see their eyeball go flying off, or like it's awful, but it's amazing every time.
Yeah, you get with those Bethesda games, you get some amazing moments.
Yes. Yeah, and if it's something that isn't game breaking like that, like give that to me. I will gladly take that. It's when it affects your game where I'm like, all right, like maybe we needed to keep that game in the oven for a minute, or maybe some of those mechanics need to be like revisited so you can figure out what's causing those issues. Like I think I told you guys, but I think I had put somewhere around 40 or 50 hours into Fallout 3, and I was on like the last mission or close to it, and I went into a building, something happened, and as I tried to go out of the building, the game went to hard lock. It would not let me go any further. And it didn't matter even if I loaded back like an hour or 2 hours ahead. and went back through that, did it in a different way or whatever, I could not complete that mission. And it was like a primary mission. And so it was like, it sucked so bad because I don't think I ever actually beat that game. Because like when that happened, I pretty much put my hands up. I was like, I'm ready for a different game. That I don't like. But if you have fun janky bugs all day, give me that all the time.
I was just remembering right now. There was a time when I was playing Starfield. I was talking with an NPC, and Vasco, the robot, just came in and slapped the NPC. that was something.
Just straight up slapped him. Did he say anything or just?
It was just, I don't remember the conversation, but we were talking, and Vasco came in. Boof, and smacked her. And the NPC like fell down and then came back up. Stand back up.
Dude, one of my favorites early on with that game was you know the Starship Troopers moment, right?
Yeah.
So I went in and I had just accepted the missions, and I went down to the ground level to go to the tram or go past the tram or whatever. And when I went down there, there were a bunch of people that were like attacking. And I was like, oh, this is a problem. Like these guys are fighting each other or whatever. And they're like, oh, you need to help us. Help us. We're dying. And so I was like, oh, so I got to shoot these people, I guess. Cause like they were doing it. And so I like shot someone, and the lady comes over and is like, what the hell are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, you're not supposed to kill him. And immediately, like right after that, I get berated by this lady. I turn around and it's like, Sarah disliked that. And she's like, I don't appreciate how you approached this and blah, blah, blah. And right after I discovered there was a weapon on the ground to stun them, not to kill them. I didn't know that, but the game was like janky and didn't give me any heads up whatsoever. And it was the weapon was partially covered by someone's body. So I couldn't see. Like I didn't even know it was there. It's like, you can't punish me for that.
I thought Sarah was pretty annoying.
Oh, dude.
Everything was an issue for her.
I appreciated, I forget which podcast it was, but someone, when I made the comment that she was being a pain in the butt on there, someone was like, all you got to do is just go to a planet, like in one of the galaxies or whatever, like go way out there in the solar system, tell her to wait, and then just leave her. And I did that, and dude, it was so much more peaceful. I enjoyed it. Like, I did have one random time though where, what was it? I pick locked something, and Sarah wasn't even there. And all of a sudden it popped up and I was like, Sarah just liked that. I was like, Sarah's in Alpha Centauri. I was like, how does Sarah know?
Watching.
I wanted to record it, but
it was Vasco. So Vasco's the snitch.
But it said Sarah. And I was like, what? Did like someone radio over and say that I did this? Like, what the hell? Yeah. Anyways. Okay. Well, I had hoped that you guys got into Fallout, but it's fine. It's fine. It's cool.
Soon. Eventually.
Soon. Sometime before 2035, you guys will get to it.
We have time.
Okay. So one other thing that I did want to touch on real quick was Forza Motorsport hitting 1.0 release and coming out of game preview. So fortunately, Forza has finally gotten to 1.0 version. So there's a bunch of stuff coming now. There's more tracks. There's a spectator mode, multi-class races. There's an endurance races. There's division changes that they've added. They ended up adding some more support for some of the steering wheels, for the Logitech steering wheels. So apparently it plays better if you have one of those fancy steering wheels. They also changed some of the regulations and stuff in the game regarding like some of the racing, and they improved the multiplayer to include some matchmaking and like safety ratings and some other additions. Basically like just the core mechanics and stuff. Of which, I don't have too much to say about this at this point, except for we really couldn't have just delayed this game like 6 or 7 months and gotten the 1.0 release instead of having to wait for those. Like, what are your guys' thoughts? Like, obviously, when all this stuff came, Raichi brings up a great point. Split screen's not listed, so apparently that one's still in the works, supposedly. But I guess my thing for you guys is like, do you think this thing should have gotten delayed until it hit a 1.0 release, or do you think it's worth it to just push these games out? Because we saw the same type of thing happen with Redfall, saw the same type of thing happen with Starfield. If you say anything about it, people get very bent out of shape. But I would argue with this. Well, hold on. I'll ask you on that first. Do you think it should have been delayed first?
Who are you asking?
Sour.
No, you're good. Do I think it should have been delayed? Definitely. Like, we don't want broken games, obviously. But I think I mentioned this in the chat, right? Like, in our private chat, that I personally think that the strategy that Xbox has been going with, whether it's the right one or not, is, you have these games as a service. Obviously, they're not releasing it on time, like, the date they want to release it, like, fully polished. So what they're just doing is they're releasing the game just to get, whatever players are interested in the game. And then down the line, as they improve it and patch it, they keep getting, another wave of players, and then they get another wave of players. And I think that's their strategy because of Game Pass. And I think, I hate to say this because it has been said that Game Pass would hurt games, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't be the case, but I think it is hurting the first party games, because I think because of Game Pass and because they're just worried about, having a certain player base, they're releasing games before they're fully cooked, and it shouldn't be like that. I feel down on the long run, this is hurting them more than it's actually benefiting them, because a lot of people, for example, are excited for a certain game. They try to play it, they have issues with it, and like right now, there's so many games that, by the time the next patch come, there's another game that already your interest in another game, and you already lost faith in that game, even if the game is already like in a good state. So I think that's something they need to work on.
I know that both of you will disagree with me, and a lot of people will, and I understand that. I'm accepting of it. That's the same thing that happened to me with Halo Infinite. It came out in a way that I was like, okay, like it's all right, but it's bare bones, and it didn't come out the way that I felt like it should have. And by the time that they started implementing a lot of that stuff and they did that course correction, other games had come out. It's like, especially as we get older, we have very minimal time to play these games as it is. And so, like, as the new stuff comes out, those games just kick to backlog real fast. Yeah. Because it's just like, I would love to go back and play some of these things, but sometimes, especially depending on the time of the year, if that thing's like suddenly got a new update, it's like, well, that's great, but now there's other stuff. Like,
yeah.
Plume.
That's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say that's fair to say, and it's unfortunate because, like, Halo Infinite, I'm sure Plume agrees with me, is probably the best Halo in terms of gameplay. It plays so great, so smooth, and it has so much potential. Like, it is great right now. But it even had more potential than what it has become. But unfortunately, because of that decision they made on the way it got released, a lot of people dropped it and passed off on them, and like Silent Cypher decided to not go back on the game, and it's a shame. And the same thing has happened to other games too.
I think that's it's one of those things of like first impression is everything.
Yeah,
Sometime, and when something comes out and it's busted, like sometimes you have the time or the thought to go back to it when you see that update's available. Maybe it hits you right as we're like in the dead of winter or something and there's no other games coming out. But yeah, I mean, especially as we see it and as we continue to talk about this release cadence that's coming up, there's so many games coming out always, like nonstop. Like we've got Hellblade, and then we've also got what was that other one that we were? It was the one that I just special ordered or pre-ordered.
Hypercharge.
Yes, Hypercharge. Yes, God, I don't know why I forgot that. I literally just
I,
saw it before.
I bought No Rest for the Wicked, and I only play like an hour or two.
Right,
There's
yeah.
so many games. Yeah,
so many freaking games right now, and it's just like it's going to be harder and harder to get that opportunity to get that impression for like people to jump back in and realize things have changed. Raichi brings up a really good point is like State of Decay 2, which I kind of argue with him on that one a little bit. I feel like State of Decay 2 felt pretty decent
no, you can't have
mostly,
it
but
both
it had a
ways. No,
bunch of like bugs. It
there
definitely
you
had
go.
bugs, but it didn't feel like it was incomplete. But like he mentions also Sea of Thieves. He says Halo Infinite, Redfall. Redfall got the Joel treatment, is what he said. And he said Hi-Fi Rush is the only completed game, which I mean, it definitely is one of the most polished games that we've seen launch for at least from like first party side of house for a while.
Yeah.
So I think he's on to something there. But Plume, what's your thought?
Uh, so for me, for Forza Motorsports specifically, if we're talking about that one, I've never been like a huge Forza Motorsport fan, so I don't like these updates that they are bringing out and stuff. Like whether these were in the game at launch or not, probably wouldn't have completely changed my overall experience. But obviously, if it's for these types of games, they are sim racers. They are for people who live and breathe this type of thing. And they, if your sim racer is going to be missing features, I mean, they have other options out there. They can go play Gran Turismo, right? They can go play, what is it, a Seta course? I don't know, whatever that one. There's like many sim racers out there that people can play. And if you're going to be missing features at launch, they will just jump over to those. And if those games are complete and they're better, by the time 1.0 comes out, they may not jump back into it. So obviously, yeah, I think they should have had these features, or if they had to delay it to make sure that the game was fully complete. That's always the better choice when it comes to games. I'm always for delays, but I wonder why like they decided to release it. There's probably I'm looking at like the release schedule. We're thinking about the first half of this year, and there is nothing. They could have probably pushed it to February or a March or
Right.
something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it
Exactly. Like
still
that's
didn't.
that. And I think, yeah, Ray Chi mentioned, I think earlier is like, would have been better if it had come out maybe in March. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I think like give it some room to breathe. They released
Yeah.
it at a time where things were
Uh,
so full.
Honestly, I think it could have even been released now with like,
Yeah.
cause like
Oh, dude, absolutely.
I don't think Hellblade would hurt this game or vice versa.
No, it's not even
So
the same type of genre. It doesn't even play in that same ring. So
Yeah, they released it a month after Starfield, so they had a game that was good for the holiday season.
yeah,
First part, it brings to me. It's right. I think further into this because, like, to me again, Forza Motorsport. I'm not like a huge Forza Motorsport guy, but I think about like the way that the releases are handled at this point. Xbox has so many first party games. Like they have more than enough leeway here to just like delay games.
yeah.
They're gonna have so much that are games that are being created, developed, and ready to go as we move through these next couple of years with all the ABK stuff as well in there, right? So they should be making sure games are coming out in good condition no matter what, because they will always have content now for Game Pass, because that's obviously probably what they're thinking. They're trying to increase their Game Pass numbers, the financial quarterly results. They want to make sure that things are up, so they push out stuff to try to, I guess, make that happen. But clearly with Forza Motorsport, you look at the numbers. I don't think it's doing very well right now, right? Like overall players on Steam and stuff. So
No, it's struggling, and I I think again we go back to like the first impressions on some of this stuff, and I think it's especially damning for this game because the whole idea with this was that they were going to drop the numbers and they were going to go to this Forza basically being like a hub, right?
yeah.
Kind of like what you're talking about with Assassin's Creed is like there's going to be this hub to kind of keep you engaged in the game longer. And the idea with Forza is that they were going to make this like a living environment where it's going to continue to update and change over time instead of constantly having to release like Forza 8, Forza Motorsport 9. So for this one to release the way it did and just not really take off, I would wonder, like, I think we ran into the same thing with Halo. I think Halo, they said that they had a 10-year plan, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder because of, I mean, we saw how everything happened with Halo. I kind of feel like this is lining up to be very similar, where they're probably going to come out within like a couple of years and be like, hey, we're doing something different. We're not going to do this like 10-year plan or whatever, because they're going to have to try and get fresh blood in. They're going to have to basically like clean off the name and be like, oh, but this is a new Forza. This one's better. You should try it. Because a lot of people have already made up their mind. A lot of people have already moved on to other things, which it sucks. It sucks because I love Forza, but I'm not gonna lie. Like as soon as they announced Forza Horizon, even if this Motorsport gets updated and it's in a good spot by the time that game comes out, when a new Forza Horizon comes out, Motorsport is getting bookshelved and I'm moving on because I personally prefer that more myself anyways. Like I'm happy it's there for sim racing, but I really love that arcadey experience, and I feel like those always release like super polished. So,
All right. Well, moving on to our final topic. We got Sony PlayStation has not one but two new bosses, and one of them is, I guess we know him pretty well, Herman Hulse. Here's a few information about him. So, his first experience in the gaming industry. Sorry about that. He started an internship at Ubisoft, which is funny because we cover some Ubisoft today. And the first game he ever worked was actually Rayman. He later left the game industry to focus on his master's degrees in industrial engineering and management. Then after that, he went to work with Philips Electronic as a strategic marketing and as a manager consultant at Anderson Consulting. He then came back to the gaming industry and co-founded Guerrilla Games, in which he was appointed a managing director on July 2001. During the studio period as Lost Boys Games. On February 19, 2004, Guerrilla first game was announced. It was Shell Shock Nam 67. Did any of you guys play that?
yes.
You did?
Yeah. God, I don't think I've heard that game since you just mentioned it. since I last played it. God, that would have been, what was that, like 2003 or something?
Well, it was announced 2004.
Okay, so like 2005, 2006-ish? Dude, holy crap. Yeah, I haven't even thought about that game until you just brought it up.
All right, well, On December 8, 2005, Guerrilla was acquired by Sony Computer Entertainment. On April 2009, Game Informer Herman shared his thoughts on Killzone being called the Halo Killer. And I'm going to read this quote real quick, and I'll explain why I wanted to add these quotes. So there's two quotes here. So the first one is, we generally don't mind comparison, as I can think of worse franchises to be compared to than Halo or Call of Duty. What I don't like is being labeled as the killer of franchise X. We set up Killzone as a universe and an experience in its own right, without wanting to benchmark it against any one particular game. We're obviously gamers ourselves, and we play anything from World of Warcraft to Little Big Planet to MotorStorm or Guitar Hero, but there isn't one title that has been the biggest influence. And yeah, basically, that's most of the information I got about Herman Hers. Now, the other person would be Hideaki Nishino. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's pretty close.
There you go. Come on. Now, honestly, I was looking for information on him, like his biography. I couldn't find a full biography. So, Plume, do you have anything on him?
No.
You don't?
No.
So we don't know much about him. But correct me if I'm wrong. He's going to be taking care of the business side, right?
So from what I understand, it's basically like what Xbox did with Matt Booty and Sarah Bond, where it breaks it off into two roles, where Herman Hulse is handling the studio side of things, and then Nishini or whatever his name is handling the hardware and the accessories and that side of PlayStation.
Okay. So what's your initial thought on this, Plume?
It was a great tweet from Hogue Law that I saw yesterday. They needed two people because Jim Ryan had two first names, so they had to get two people to replace his role. That's my initial thought.
That was a great take by him. I loved that. I was like, way to go, Hogue. Good job.
That was the best take I saw in the entire situation. But honestly, I guess they wanted to split it up and have, I guess, a more focused approach on what is going on. I think probably because their overall strategy is definitely changing. So it's just a part of their strategy of releasing games and how they're going to develop games. I guess Herman Hulse has a pretty good track record for the stuff that he has put out. It's been successful, so it does make sense for him to be on the studio side. I mean, whether you like the games from Guerrilla or not, they've all done pretty well. I wish they would eventually bring back Killzone, but obviously that's probably not going to be happening. But and then I don't really know anything about the other guy, like I said. So he's going to be handling the hardware, and we're seeing PlayStation, especially after their recent financials, continue to talk about their strategy of going more multi-platform, but going more onto PC and expand out to what's more about how long do people play their games and the overall time rather than the amount of games that they're buying or the sales of the game, basically, which is funny because we just 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago told that was the most important thing. Now we know that obviously that the business is changing, and PlayStation kind of did confirm that. And the other thing is with Herman Hulse, maybe they think he is a good replacement because he is working his studio, or the studio he was the head of when Sony bought them, Guerrilla Games, is working on an online games as a service multiplayer game. So that may be another reason he's going to be overseeing, I think, a lot of those that PlayStation's going to want to release, especially after the success of Helldivers 2, which is literally their most successful published game of all time. 12 million copies, or like a most successful launch of a game that they've published. So
until they shit the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But personally, I think on the side of Herman Hurst, at least, I think this is a good move, as long as he has a say on what they're actually gonna do. The reason why I wanted to add those quotes was because if you listen to the quote, if you read the quotes, he's obviously is a gamer. He likes also different type of games. He plays different type of games, and he doesn't care about this whole nonsense of the console wars and all that, which I feel at the end is better for us, the gamers, when you have someone in charge that actually know about video games. Hopefully they make decisions that will benefit not only the company but also us, the gamers. Now, regarding the other person, I don't know much about him, so that part does worry me a little bit. But hopefully, he Herman Hurst is there to kind of like put him on check and have a good balance, because of course the companies at the end of the day they want to make money, but also at the same time we as gamers we want value. So hopefully they can bring us that. And hopefully they can make different type of games now, not the same game over and over. What about you, Silent?
I think that's one of the main things I really hope for everyone involved, is that they'll get away from trying to remake The Last of Us remake, remastered, Volume 2.5. Like the amount of time
director's cut,
unrated edition. Yeah, I just hope whatever ends up happening with them, I hope we get back to a point where we have people that I can enjoy seeing up on a stage, like making announcements.
Wait, what do you mean? You didn't enjoy Jim Ryan?
Oh, I enjoyed Jim Ryan. I enjoyed Jim Ryan for the wrong reasons. And that's the problem, is like, I feel like for the last little bit, we've gotten back to that PS3 level of arrogance where, Sony's basically just like, well, especially with the Helldivers situation, I feel like it's like, well, we got your money and we don't really care, so suck it. Like they have this approach where it's like, well, you're in our ecosystem anyway, so we don't care. Like, what are you going to do about it? Leave? Like they're very cocky right now, I feel like, with their stance.
And I don't think it's that. It's just not enough people paying the premium 5-star, or what is it?
Yeah, they don't have enough people paying for the high tier tech support or troubleshooting.
Customer service.
No, and there you go. There's another log on the fire, right? It's like that whole customer support thing. I'm sorry, but that comes from a place where you're just like, you're so high on your own supply and you are so separated from like the picture. Again, it goes back to like what we were talking about previously with like Xbox Live Gold, when they decided that they were going to try and double the price a ways back, right? It's like when that happened, everyone was like, did you get hit in the head? Like, because that doesn't make any sense. And that's a terrible idea. And they walked it back. But I guarantee you the person that floated that $1 million idea has no idea how the sales are, what the numbers looked like, or anything whatsoever. It was probably someone that was new in a position and was like, I've got a solution that's going to make everything better. And then like when they got the blowback, they're like, no, we're not doing that. I want to see kind of a more like tactical and humble PlayStation. I want to see people I am interested in listening to. Someone like Kutaragi, like back when we had Ken. Ken was cool. He was enjoyable to listen to. Like people like that from the old guard, I feel like, they knew they were good, but they weren't cocky about it and they weren't assholes about it. And Jim Ryan is that. Like he is the living embodiment of being a cocky asshole. And every time he came out on stage, I was like, God, this guy again. Like, what are we doing? I don't want this. It does concern me, like you said, that we don't know much about Hideaki Nishino. That worries me because I don't really know his background previous. And maybe Herman Holst is the main person that's going to be making most of these decisions, or maybe if the other guy is a little aggressive, he can sway him to work on things or compromise. But I don't know. I mean,
that's what I'm
only
hoping.
time's going to tell, right?
Yeah. Bring Siphon Filter back.
Exactly.
That's hopefully they just make, like you said, more games, different games. But I'm also very skeptical that that's what's going to happen because of the way that the industry is right now.
Wow.
I feel like, how much say does Herman Hulse actually have, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's going to be Hiroki Totoki, even though he's not there anymore. But the guys above him that are going to be saying this is what we're doing based off of our spreadsheets. Go out and make these games. Go out and make the same IP in a multiplayer version. They're like, that's where they have to build now going forward, right? They have to make more of those multiplayer games, and they do have some in the pipeline. They have Bungie coming up with stuff, and like I said, their Horizon game that they're working on. So I don't know. We'll see.
Remember when we had that conversation a ways back where they said that they were working on 12 live services?
Yeah.
And we all basically came to the consensus of, maybe a quarter of those will survive. We're already, I think, close to that number, and nothing's even released yet. Like, that's a bad situation. I mean, maybe it's good for them because they at least got in there and cut their losses before they released this thing and tried to put even more money in. But yeah, I agree with you fully. I think they are going to probably, at least in the short term, they're going to double down on revisiting the recent catalog because it's easier for them to revisit, upgrade those titles real quick, maybe get a quick cash injection so they can support themselves for a little bit. I don't see any world where, especially with these new guys, they're just going to immediately be like, we want you to build this quadruple A game and we're going to give you all the money. Like, they're going to be a little bit complacent with their current strategy, I think, for probably a couple years. It does make me wonder if we're going to actually see a PS5 Pro at this point in time because of all the changes, though. What do you think, Plume? Do you think we're going to see a PS5 Pro?
I think so, just because of the rumors are just so. They're rumors, but they're essentially real at this point. There's so much smoke around this fire that I feel like we will. I don't know why. I don't see any point to it, especially from the specs that we have seen released. But at this point, like, if developers are getting the outlines as to what the PS5 Pro is, and they're having the ability to be told that you have to have these features in your games to get that label on the box or whatever before it ships to be PS5 Pro certified. I feel like with all of that happening, again, if it's true, it just seems like it really is true. I don't see why they would pull the plug on it now. This seems way too deep into the PS5 Pro process, but their sales are their console sales aren't even hitting their targets. And if they're going to release a Pro, like I kind of agree with you. It doesn't really make sense. Or if we don't see it, I wouldn't be surprised either, because they're not even hitting their targets. And if they think like releasing a Pro version of the console is going to be more expensive right now than the current PS5 is going to help them hit their targets, I don't know really what the point of it all is. But
especially with what we've seen, right? Most of these hardware advancements that have come out, they're not cheaper. They're not making better costs on these systems generally. Like, they have to do multiple iterations to even get to a point where some of these things are better, more affordable for them to actually do. Stuff like the heat sink on those initial systems and stuff. Like, prices are just not dropping the same as they used to. Like, it used to be back in the old generations, you would release something, and a few years in, that console was like a couple $100 off. That's not how it is anymore. So it feels a little dicey. I mean, you're probably 100% right. It's probably way too late in the game to cancel a PS5 Pro. but given your current sales on hardware are dropping, and now you're going to release something that's going to cost more and probably even gain like less traction, like it feels like it should be kicked to the curb. But
yeah, the only thing I will say PlayStation has is they have such good marketing. Remember when they told everybody about their special SSD? They're gonna make people believe that this PS5 Pro is gonna be 8K 60 frames per second, and you'll have people eating it up, and then obviously that's not going to be the case. So that's the only thing that I guess they would have going for. But I think like it's very going to be a niche. If not everybody from PS4 bought a PS5, even less people from PS5 are going to buy a PS5 Pro. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
They have to have their margins in line. So maybe they're the ones that run it, and maybe their spreadsheets are telling them, hey, we only have to sell like 2 million of these, and we're going to be rolling in it. So I don't know.
Then the other thing too, if you think about it, at this point, with they putting most of their games, if not, all of them in PC. I think they should know by now that most people are already looking into PC and like just thinking about, why not make the jump? Like actual people that will want a PlayStation Pro, most of them are making the change to PC. Same with like an Xbox Pro, for example, or an Xbox X, I guess, Series XX.
It's for the enthusiasts,
or the X Pro.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're most likely with everything going to PC. Why not build a PC for a little bit more buck? So
you heard it here first. Sourblow is leaving the Xbox community and going to PC.
Oh, I'm already in PC. Look what I got.
What?
Here.
Blasphemy.
I got this. I got the PC.
That still count as an Xbox, the Asus RGLA. It's just an Xbox handheld.
No, it does not. Come on.
You get Game Pass with it when you open the box. It's all advertised.
That's true.
That's true.
Pass handheld.
It's like loaded right in.
I also get the Nintendo Switch on it. No, never mind. Anyway, I think it's time to land the plane. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so. I apologize, guys. I'm literally like right on the edge of getting a cold, I think. So apologies, chat. I probably sound terrible. My bad. And if you say I sound like I normally do, well, I love you too.
Well, you still sound amazing silent. So,
oh, kiss ass. All right.
What up?
Well, I guess on the landing for this, chat. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this evening. It was great to see so many folks. We had a lot of folks come through today, a lot of newer familiar faces. DJ Dana G popped in here towards the end as well. We had Noisy Mofo. We had, Elvio dropped in. Mandalorian Martin came in here. Cygnus. We had a lot of people pop in towards the later half of the show, so thanks for hanging out with us. It was awesome. Plume, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me in the usual spots: YouTube, Plume Gaming, and Twitter, X, and I've been making more shorts, so you can follow me on TikTok as well. Basically, just little clips of my actual long form videos that you get in the morning.
Wait, clips of your long, huh? What? OnlyFans?
OnlyFans.
What?
All right, the plane is crashing.
Thanks, Sour. Speaking of plane crashing, the main cause of our crash, Sourblow, where can they find you?
Oh man! Besides here on Wednesdays, you can find me sometimes Fridays with the crew en español. So as you speak Spanish, go check us out there. Xbox International Podcast en español with Elvio, who was in the chat, Eternal Shaddai, Ask Up Gaming, and sometimes myself hops in there. So check us out there. And, Twitter, Xbox, Sourblow. I think it's just Sourblow now. I dropped the 18. If not, at Sourblow.
Yep, he graduated. He's no longer 18. He's 19 now.
Yes. But anyway, that's where you can find me. What about you, Silent Cypher? Where can we find that sexy voice?
Well, hopefully I'll get a couple days to rest so it'll sound more sexy again, because I feel like right now I'm literally like clearing my throat every 2 or 3 minutes. So again, apologies if that came through. But as far as where you'll be able to find me, you can find me on Twitter, being an ass goblin as usual. You can find me on TikTok. I'll be posting some stuff there here pretty quick. I got some more stuff I've been recording as I've been playing some games slowly over the last like few weeks. Let me think. You can find me on Friday morning on Breakfast or on Double Barrel Gaming Channel, Breakfast with Boom, Mr. Boomstick and Fuzzy and maybe Crispy Bomb and maybe Dreadpool, maybe? Potentially. I'm trying to remember if he's in town. So make sure you stop by there Friday morning as well. I've got a few other things lined up, so you might see my pasty white self in some other venues sometime here in the near future, but I don't have anything confirmed just yet. I will keep you guys updated, obviously, as that happens. But I think it is time. So, chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And like I always say, let's go. That almost sounded like Trump.
You have to say, remember.
Remember. Let's go. Let's rock. And let's not get canceled. Yeah. See you guys later.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at our destination. For your safety and comfort, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the captain turns off this live stream. On behalf of Xbox International, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this trip, and we're looking forward to seeing you aboard next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.